I'll admit, when I walked into Center Stage Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, I was under the assumption that I was in line for some type of promotional push from the company. So imagine my surprise, even my horror, when I looked at the chalkboard that listed that evening's events and saw my name along with a partner known as Rick Fargo, not exactly a household name, set to do battle with the Steiner Brothers. Rick and Scott Steiner were like animals, and I momentarily contemplated quitting the wrestling business. I could feel my heart sinking in my stomach. And this was a move I would later go on to see 4 or 5 other grown men make when they saw their name on that same chalkboard with a different wrestler, a wrestler named Vader. I'm talking about the Vader, who made grown men look at each other and go, I don't think this business is for me, Joey. And I would watch, being an observer of people, I would watch out the tiny window at Center Stage Theaters. They took that long, lonely walk across Peachtree Street, their gear slung over their shoulder in the days before rolling bags. It's a long time ago. Never to be seen or heard from again. And that's the type of decision, a career-making decision I was on the precipice of making when I heard the voice of one of my saving graces in that room. I was so lucky, fortunate to have 2 saving graces in that room on that night, the first of which belonged to Kevin Sullivan, a member of WCW's booking committee, one of the greatest minds this business has ever known. And I just heard that voice. He said, brother, what's your finish? Now, finish is wrestle speak for finishing move or finishing hold. I just seen my name on the chalkboard against the Steiners. I was under the impression there would be no offensive moves for Mrs. Foley's baby boy, let alone one so impressive it put an end to Rick or Scott Steiner. So without thinking about it, I just kind of blurted out, I drop an elbow? And he looked at me in disbelief. He said, an elbow for your finish? Should be pointed out without further explanation. An elbow drop for a finishing move sounds rather weak, benign, borderline Hogan-esque. But like I said, I had 2 saving graces in the room that night. The second which, and I'll tell you what, I'm not really a voice guy. I do a pretty good Vince McMahon. I do a pretty good Terry Funk with an N, so technically where am I on the F-bomb scale? Still at 0, right, buddy? But this time, I am right on the money when I imitate managerial great James E. Cornette. As Walt Disney, supplying the voice work for a 1937 era Mickey Mouse if Walt had just taken 3 deep hits of helium first. And that voice rang out and he said, God damn, Kevin. Gotta see this elbow. Damnedest thing you've ever seen. Just takes off from that ring apron, body flies through the air. You can hear it splattering on the concrete floor. God damn. Jim Cornette. And then I felt a hand on my shoulder, and serious as a heart attack, Kevin Sullivan looks at me and says, brother, I don't care how badly the Steiners hurt you tonight. I don't care what Ricky or Scotty do to you. When that match ends, when that bell rings, if you're still conscious. Yeah, you heard me right. He dropped the if-bomb. If you're still conscious. A genuine concern when facing Rick or Scott Steiner. When that bell rings, if you're still conscious, I want to see you drop that elbow on your partner. What a great idea. Now, during the course of that match, true to Kevin Sullivan's words, Rick and Scott Steiner during the course of that match, true to Kevin Sullivan's words, Rick and Scott Steiner could have been a little bit nicer to me. They were pretty tough on Mrs. Foley's baby boy. No offensive moves. When that bell rang, when that match ended and I realized I was still conscious, and I knew it to be true because I checked twice. When I realized I was still conscious, I began to hyperventilate. Hadn't been that scared before. I haven't been that scared since because I knew that my moment was now. There were no second chances. So I took the prone body of Rick Fargo. I knocked him outside the ring, and I gave him a backbreaker at the spot where I estimated the perfect elbow should be delivered. And that's where I ran into an unforeseen problem. Got up on the ring apron and looked out at a human being who appeared to be 2 football fields away from me. And I thought, there's no way. There's no way. But I also realized I couldn't very well hop off the ring apron, walk over and scooch him in. There's no scooching in pro wrestling. So if you're wondering what I was saying to myself with my eyes closed, I began my 3-step approach on the Mankind DVD. What I'm doing is I'm reciting what I remembered of the Lord's Prayer. Lead us not into temptation. And I just hung my body out there, literally praying for the best. And while it might be a slight exaggeration to label what I did to Rick Fargo that night as an elbow drop, I'll be damned if it wasn't the greatest extended flying hand